He said it was just once. Like that made it better. Like 23 years of loyalty, forgiveness, church Sundays, and shared bank accounts could be reset with a shrug and a "my bad." It was the third Thursday in November, the one most folks call Thanksgiving. I had sweet potatoes in the oven, cornbread dressing cooling on the counter, and one empty chair at the table that used to be his. My name is Deborah Jean Wallace. I'm 48 years old, and this is the story of how one mistake cost my husband everything, including me. We built our life in a quiet Georgia town just outside Macon, the kind where porch lights double as street lights and gossip travels faster than prayer requests. Everybody knows your cousin's cousin. Half the county shares a last name, and the Piggly Wiggly cashier can tell your whole family history before she bags your bread. I met Charles Wallace on one of those humid July days when the air feels thick enough to chew. The AC had quit at Miss Bailey's chicken joint, and the fryer oil was popping like gunfire. He walked in wearing a faded gray uniform, toolbox in hand, skin shining from the heat. He smiled like he already knew I'd notice him, said he'd heard a pretty lady was about to pass out from the heat. He fixed the unit in 15 minutes flat and refused the $20 Miss Bailey tried to hand him. "Southern hospitality," he said, flashing that grin that made his dimples show. I should have known right then. Any man who only offers free favors to women with blue eyeshadow and good legs had a little too much smooth in his system. But Lord, back then, that smooth felt like safety. He had ambition, manners, and those work-worn hands that looked like they could rebuild anything they touched. By the end of that summer, he'd fix my brakes, fix my screen door, and halfway fixed my heart, so I let him in. I gave him 23 years, 2 children, Malachi and Denise, 1 miscarriage we never talked about, 3 house moves, 6 different side hustles, and 1 dream I kept folded away in a Sears shoebox labeled "One Day." That dream was nursing school. I had the grades, the recommendation letters, the spark. But back then, Charles wanted to expand his landscaping business, and we couldn't both chase dreams with 2 toddlers and rent due. So I stayed, supported, cooked, budgeted, prayed, and for a long time it felt enough. Then came the shift, not a tornado, just a slow, steady breeze that moved things out of place before I noticed they were gone. It started with late nights, not the kind where he came home tired and grateful, the kind where his phone stayed face down and the shower water ran too long. Then the energy changed. He started wearing cologne again, the kind in a square bottle that didn't come from Walmart, upgraded his phone, went from Dickies work pants to fitted jeans from the outlet mall in Warner Robins. He laughed a little, louder at jokes that weren't mine, spent more time scrolling than talking, stopped asking if I'd eaten, and then the cup. A cheap pink cup from Dollar Tree, smudged with lipstick, rolled under the passenger seat of his truck when I borrowed it for Bible study. I held it in my hand the whole night, that flimsy piece of plastic shaking in the glow of the dashboard light. I turned it over, again and again, like the truth might rub off if I held it long enough. Didn't say a word, not because I was scared, but because I wanted to see how long he'd lie to my face. It didn't take long. That Saturday, I cooked his favorite, fried catfish, coleslaw, and skillet cornbread with honey butter. The kitchen smelled like home and lies. I set the table like I always did, poured him sweet tea with lemon, just like his mama taught me. He came in whistling, smelling like aftershave and outside wind. I pulled the cup from my purse and placed it on the table, gently, like it was glass. His whistle stopped mid-note. He stared. Then he laughed. That slow, fake chuckle men use when they try to disarm a bomb with charm. "Oh, that's just somebody from a job. She left it in the truck. Ain't nothing." I didn't blink. He shifted in his chair, then sighed. "Deb, I swear, it was just once. One stupid night. I was drunk, we were talking, and look, it didn't mean anything. I came home, didn't I?" That's what he thought counted. Coming home. as if dragging your dirt back to our clean sheets made it noble. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't even touch my food. I just stood up, folded my napkin, and said quietly, "You'll be sleeping on the couch tonight. If it was just once, that means it won't happen again." He opened his mouth, searching for words big enough to fit inside his shame, but I was already upstairs. The next morning, I packed 2 bags, one with essentials and one with memories. I put my wedding album in the bottom, not because I wanted it, but because I didn't want to see it. Slid my Bible on top of it, pages still marked from the last sermon about forgiveness. Texted the kids in a group chat, "I'll be at Aunt Marlene's for a while, don't worry, just need air." Told Charles the same with a note taped to the fridge. "One mistake can burn down a forest. Don't test how much I planted." Then I walked out. Aunt Marlene lived on the edge of Bibb County, in a house that smelled like menthol rub, peach cobbler, and old Motown records. The kind of house where every clock ticked loud enough to remind you time was passing whether you healed or not. She didn't ask questions, just looked me up and down, nodded once, and handed me a spare key and a folded towel. "Bathroom's on the left. Don't worry about nothing tonight." That night, I laid on her floral couch, the kind with tiny pink roses that prick your skin through the fabric, and stared at the popcorn, ceiling like it might spell out answers if I squinted hard enough. Every creak of the floorboard sounded like memory. Every passing car light painted shadows that looked like the life I used to live. Somewhere between midnight and 2 a.m., I got up, opened the hall closet, the one that held 30 years of Marlene's "I'll deal with it later." Inside was a dusty tote labeled "Old Papers and Random Stuff." I pulled it down, sneezing through the dust. Inside were photo albums, a Christmas ornament, and something that made my chest ache. My old nursing school folder, the manila one with my name printed neatly across the front. Beneath it lay a spiral notebook labeled "Candle Ideas." The edges curled, the ink faded, but the words were still mine. Scents I'd written down during long nights when the kids were asleep and the bills barely paid. Stillness, memory lace, eucalyptus, and regret. I flipped through the pages, fingers trembling, the smell of old paper mixed with Marlene's lavender plug-in. Peace and possibility wrapped together. I didn't cry. Instead, I walked back to the living room, lit one of her Walgreens candles, vanilla bean and sugar cane, and watched the flame tilt and steady itself. The wax melted slow, thick like honey, and the light danced on the picture frames across the room. Family, graduations, Marlene's old church choir. I whispered to myself, barely loud enough to break the silence. It was just once for him. But this next chapter? It's all mine. And in that tiny room, smelling of vanilla and new beginnings, I felt something shift, the smallest spark of self returning to my chest. Not fire yet, but the start of one. The first morning at Aunt Marlene's felt like stepping out of fog, not because the air was clear. Her living room still smelled like menthol rub and incense sticks from the beauty supply store, but because my mind was finally still. No arguing, no second guessing, no waiting on footsteps to know what kind of night I was about to have, just quiet. And quiet was something I hadn't heard in years, the kind of quiet where you notice small things, the tick of the hallway clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint gospel tune playing from Marlene's old kitchen radio, the kind of quiet that makes you realize how much noise your life had been carrying. I woke up that morning before sunrise. The window blinds left soft golden lines across the couch blanket. I could smell Marlene's coffee, strong, black, with just a hint of caramel syrup like she always did on Mondays. When she saw me walk into the kitchen, she didn't ask how I slept, just slid a mug toward me and said, "You gon' be fine, baby. Just don't rush your piece." And for the first time in a long while, I believed her. That Monday, I drove back into town with a purpose I didn't have before, not to confront Charles, not to explain myself to anybody. I was headed to the Bibb County clerk's office. If you've never been inside a county office in Georgia, let me paint it for you. The kind of cold that bites your fingers even when it's 80 outside. Fluorescent lights that hum like old bees. Plastic chairs that look like they've been holding the same people since the early 90s. And the front desk clerk? Miss Geraldine. She wore all 63 of her years like Sunday armor. Blue eyeliner, matching nails, gold bangles clinking every time she typed. Her perfume lingered in the air like defiance. She glanced up when I approached. "You here to pay a ticket?" I smiled, shaking my head. "No, ma'am. I'm here to register an LLC." Her glasses slid down her nose. She gave me that slow once-over, like she was measuring my backbone before my paperwork. "Well, look at you," she said finally, tapping her nails on the counter. "What's the name?" I hesitated for half a breath. The name had been living in the back of my head for years, whispering to me through burned-out candles and half-written notebooks. "Soul Flame," I said. Her eyebrows lifted, a grin tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Ooh, that sound like candles or gospel?" "Maybe a little of both," I said, smiling for real this time. The next stop was Dollar General, because when you're rebuilding your life, you start where you can. I grabbed a pack of black and white composition notebooks, a $2 calculator, a pen set, and the last 3 packs of tea lights hiding behind the clearance rack. The cashier, a teenage boy with earbuds in, scanned everything without looking up. I counted out the cash slow, feeling the weight of each dollar, like a promise to myself. For the next 2 weeks, I turned Marlene's kitchen into a laboratory of scent and hope. The counter stayed covered in jars, old measuring spoons, and grocery bags full of wax flakes and essential oils. YouTube played on the tablet. Candle tutorials, fragrance mixing, how to make labels without fancy printers. Some nights I fell asleep on the couch still smelling like coconut oil and burnt wick. Lavender vanilla with coconut oil? Too soft. Melted wrong. Lemon verbena and shea butter? Better, but too sharp. Eucalyptus and regret? Perfect. That one hit deep. It smelled like what healing feels like. Clean but complicated. I named each candle like a chapter in my life. Stillness smelled like peace after too many storms. Gaslight burned with smoky cedar and a cinnamon sting. Closed door was heavy with frankincense and black currant. Strong, final, sacred. Marlene would sit at the table watching me test batches, fanning herself with a church program. "Chile, you over there cooking feelings?" She'd laugh. I printed each label on scrap sticker paper she had in a drawer, cutting them crooked but proud. Meanwhile, Charles was still texting. At first it was casual. "Just checking on you. Hope you're good. Kid's been asking about you." Then came the guilt. "It didn't mean nothing, Deb. 23 years can't end like this. Don't throw it all away over one mistake." I'd read them, set the phone down, and let silence answer for me. Funny how the ones who break the glass always get mad at the mess. I didn't block him, didn't engage, just watched his words pile up like empty promises. That Sunday after church, Marlene and I drove to Pine Grove Flea Market, the heart of the county on weekends. The air was thick with barbecue smoke and gospel music leaking from old speakers. Tables lined up like patchwork dreams, knockoff purses, bootleg CDs, sweetgrass baskets, jars of honey, and folks selling boiled peanuts in brown paper bags. I rented half a table for $10, set out my 6 test candles, their labels slightly uneven, but shining in the sunlight. Hand-wrote a cardboard sign with a black Sharpie, "Soul Flame," $5 each or 2 for $8. People walked by, sniffed, smiled. One woman in a bright yellow sundress stopped. "You make these, baby?" "Yes, ma'am," she laughed. "You got one that smells like a man who told too many lies?" Without missing a beat, I handed her Gaslight. She bought 3. By noon, I was sold out. By the next week, I had repeat customers. One of them was Miss Thelma, Charles' old Sunday school teacher. She didn't say much, just picked up Stillness, sniffed it slow, and placed a $10 bill in the jar. Then she looked me dead in the eye. "Good," she said. "About time you made something just for you." That one sentence stayed with me for days. Then came the letter. a certified envelope with his business logo, Wallace Landscaping, LLC, stamped in the corner. My stomach tightened before I even opened it. Inside was a request for joint property mediation. Turns out Charles was trying to refinance the house and couldn't, not without my signature. So I ironed my charcoal wrap dress, slipped on my small gold hoops, and walked into that mediation office calm as sunrise. He looked different. Not bad, just worn. Eyes tired, beard uneven, belt pulled a little too tight like he'd lost weight but couldn't admit it. "Deborah," he said, like my name had too many syllables now. "Charles." We sat. The mediator, a woman with kind eyes and too much paperwork, started explaining the process. Charles cleared his throat halfway through. "Look, just sign, okay? I'll buy you out. 10 grand, cash. You can start over." I smiled, soft but steady. "Oh, Charles, you must think I'm still the woman who begged you to fix the dryer with duct tape." He frowned. "I don't want a payout," I said. "I want the house." His jaw tightened. "What?" "I'm already in the process," I told him. "Bought the back taxes last week. You didn't know that, did you? By January, it'll be mine outright." He blinked, trying to process. "You're bluffing." I slid the certified papers across the table. Official stamps, county seals, my signature neat as Sunday handwriting. He stared at them like they were in another language, didn't speak another word for the rest of the session. Back at Marlene's, I sat at her old desktop computer, the one that made a sound like a train starting up, and opened my email. There was a new order notification from Shopify, 14 candles, same address as home. Name on the label? Denise Wallace, my daughter. She hadn't said much since I left, kept her tone polite, neutral, maybe torn in the middle. But that order? That said everything. The note she left in the checkout box read, "Mama, your silence taught me strength. I see you." I cried for the first time since that pink cup. Not loud, not broken, just quiet tears that felt like release. By Christmas, I had a website up, built from a free Shopify theme and trial and error patience. Marlene bought me a ring light and a backdrop from Walmart, said I needed to look official. My cousin Rico filmed a little TikTok video, me pouring wax slow motion, R&B playing in the background. He captioned it, "My aunt left her husband and started making healing candles. Y'all support Soul Flame. 380,000 views in 3 days. PayPal notifications started pinging faster than I could print labels. Names I didn't know, states I'd never been to. And through it all," Charles kept texting, "You changed. Don't forget who helped you build that first business." "You acting like I'm the enemy," I almost replied once, had the words typed out on my phone. "You built a business on grass. I'm building an empire on grace." But I deleted it, because silence said it louder. Instead, I printed a label, packed a single candle, Gaslight, wrapped it in brown paper, tied it with string, and mailed it to his address. No note, no return name, just the scent of his own mistake coming home to him. The first morning I woke up to 112 orders in my inbox, I didn't scream. I didn't dance. I didn't even smile right away. I just sat there at Aunt Marlene's kitchen table, still wearing my satin bonnet, staring at the laptop screen like it was gospel. Because it wasn't just candle orders. It was confirmation. Confirmation that I wasn't crazy, that all those years of shrinking myself, of soft stepping around someone else's ego, of shelving my ideas for his come up, hadn't killed the best parts of me. They'd just been buried. And now, I was digging them up. By January, the garage was too small. Boxes lined the floor like soldiers, jars stacked to the ceiling. The scent of wax, eucalyptus, and shea butter clung to everything, even my clothes. Marlene's whole house smelled like forgiveness and fire, so I signed a short lease on a tiny commercial unit behind a laundromat on Houston Road. No windows, leaky faucet, a door that stuck every time it rained. But when I stepped inside, it smelled like new beginnings. Dust, paint, and potential. I painted the walls myself, white and gold, clean, bright, hopeful, set up folding tables from Walmart, bought wire shelves off Facebook Marketplace, organized everything into bins with handwritten labels, wax blocks, oils, wicks, labels, faith. Then I bought an industrial melter with a tax refund I used to split with Charles every year. That felt poetic. Soul Flame wasn't just a name anymore, it was a process. And I guarded that process like scripture. People started noticing. My old coworker, Tanya, popped by one afternoon, her perfume arriving a full minute before she did. She picked up one of the new candles, a soft gray jar labeled Closure, and took a long inhale. "Girl," she said, eyes closing, "this one smells like peace after you cuss somebody out in your head." I laughed. "That's close enough. It's called closure." She blinked, eyebrows high. "You a genius for real." Then her tone shifted. "You know he at the barber shop running his mouth?" I kept pouring. "Which one?" "Your ex-husband. Said you out here being petty. That you trying to ruin him. That you jealous of his new girl." That stopped me cold. He had a new girl? And still texting me like I was the one clinging? I set the jar down slow. "Lord," I whispered, "give these men the audacity they hand out." Tanya snorted. "You want me to tell him something next time I see him?" I grinned, reaching for another candle. "Yeah, give him this." She squinted at the label. "What scent?" "Delusion." We both burst out laughing so hard Marlene came in from the other room asking what was funny. 2 days later, I was filling orders when the door opened. And in walked the last person I expected, Miss Rhonda Wallace, Charles' mama. Now, Miss Rhonda had never been a fan of mine, said I was too bookish, not domestic enough, told her church friends I was too independent for her son. But there she stood, black wool coat, red lipstick, pearls, and that same sharp look she'd worn the day we met. She held a folded paper in one hand like it owed her money. "I came to make a bulk order," she said flatly, "for the women's auxiliary at my church." I blinked. "You sure you in the right shop?" She rolled her eyes. "Don't get slick, Deborah. A candle is a candle, and yours don't smell like sin and struggle like Bath and Body Works." I tried not to laugh. "What sense you want, Miss Rhonda?" She handed me the paper. At the bottom, in her tidy cursive, was a note. "P.S. Thank you for not burning the house down. That boy's still dumb." I stared at it for a good 10 seconds before smiling. "Yes, ma'am. I'll get these ready by Sunday." As she walked out, she turned and said, "Don't let that boy make you small again. You hear me?" "I hear you," I said softly. By February, I had 3 wholesale clients, a P.O. box full of thank you notes, and more traction than I could manage alone. The orders came from all over, Texas, New York, even one from Canada. That's when Denise came home from grad school. She walked into the workshop one Friday afternoon like she'd been planning this takeover for months. Hair in a bun, glasses low on her nose, clipboard in hand. "All right, Mama," she said, scanning the room. "We need to talk about your workflow." I raised an eyebrow. "My what?" "Workflow," she repeated. "You labeling backwards. Your SKUs are chaos. You're handwriting thank you cards like it's 1998. I laughed. "It's called personal touch. It's called carpal tunnel waiting to happen," she said, dead serious. By the next morning, she'd built a spreadsheet, color-coded inventory bins, and set up a label printer she bought with her own money. I just stood there watching her, my baby girl, confident, focused, thriving. Seeing her work beside me, not for survival, but for legacy, that was a joy I didn't even know I could feel. One Saturday in March, we decided to visit the flea market, just to browse. No table this time, just nostalgia. The smell hit first. Barbecue smoke, boiled peanuts, funnel cake, gospel music drifting from a portable speaker near the entrance. And then I saw him, Charles, standing by a rusty trailer, selling refurbished lawnmowers and gas cans, wearing the same work boots from our marriage, only now they looked tired, like him. He didn't see us at first, but when he did, his eyes froze. Denise started to turn away. I touched her arm. "Nah," I said quietly. "Let him see." We walked past slow. I could feel his stare heavy on my back, then his voice, low, hesitant. "Deb, I've been meaning to talk." I turned. "You just did." He swallowed hard. "They talking about you in the paper. Soul flame blowing up, huh?" I nodded. "We're doing all right." He tried a smile, the kind that used to melt me. "I always knew you had it in you." I met his eyes, calm, certain. "You just never wanted to see it." He opened his mouth like he wanted to say more, but no sound came out. I turned to leave. Denise followed, chin high. Behind us, the hum of the crowd swallowed him whole. That night, I sat on Marlene's porch with a glass of sweet tea, sweating in my hand. The air was warm, heavy with the smell of honeysuckle. Crickets chirped like background singers. I thought about all the times I'd stayed, out of fear, guilt, habit, hope. All the times I'd mistaken comfort for love. All the times I'd called compromise faith. And I realized something. Every piece of me I thought I'd lost in him had just been waiting for me to leave. Every just once moment I forgave, explained away, prayed over. It hadn't broken me. It had refined me, like wax poured into a mold, like fire tempered by heat, like a soul, flame learning how to burn without permission. I leaned back in that creaky porch chair and whispered to myself, "You did it, Deb. Quietly, fully, and on your own terms." And when the wind moved through the trees, I swear I heard them whisper back, "Amen." The envelope came on a Wednesday, plain manila, corner bent, USPS sticker slapped across the top like it didn't matter. But I knew that handwriting, even before I opened it, even before the faint scent of old cologne and regret slipped out when I tore the flap. Charles Wallace. Inside were 3 pages, front and back, written in blue ballpoint pen. His handwriting had that same crooked lean from the days he'd write checks at the kitchen table, tongue pressed to his top lip when he concentrated. The first line? "Deborah, I need your help." I laughed before I even made it to paragraph 2. Because isn't that always how it goes? The same hands that once pushed you aside come back reaching when the roof starts leaking. Turns out Charles was in trouble. Not criminal. Worse. Financial. His second landscaping business hadn't taken off like the first. Too many trucks. Not enough contracts. His new girlfriend, the one with the long nails and the longer wish list, had maxed out credit cards in both their names. Spa packages. Wigs. iPhone payments. Even a carnival cruise they never boarded because the balance hit collections before the boarding passes printed. And now the bank was foreclosing on the house. The house. The one with the chipped white shutters I painted myself one spring. The same front porch where Malachi learned to ride his first bike. The kitchen where Denise made her volcano science project and burned up my best saucepan. The house where I once prayed over cold dinners and birthday cards with no notes inside. The house I walked away from. He didn't know that 4 months ago. I walked right back. Only this time through the back door. Through the Bibb County tax lien auction. I'd shown up early that morning wearing jeans, a soul flame hoodie, and the calm of a woman who'd learned to keep her mouth closed and her paperwork tight. Rows of men in caps and polo shirts looked at me like I was lost. But when the clerk read that property address, I raised my paddle high, bought the lien quietly, waited the redemption period, filed the paperwork, transferred the deed into Soul Flame Holdings, LLC, Denise's idea. Now, I didn't just own the business, I owned the house. That Friday, I agreed to meet him, neutral ground, Mabel's Diner off Highway 74. The kind of place where the menus are sticky. The booths are red vinyl patched with duct tape, and the waitress knows your order before you sit down. Gospel hums through the ceiling speakers. Fry grease perfumes the air. He was already there when I walked in. stood up like manners might erase mistakes. The same jacket from Denise's graduation, pressed but fraying at the sleeves. "Deb," he said, voice soft. I nodded once and slid into the booth. He fidgeted with a napkin, eyes darting everywhere but me. "I know I messed up," he started. "More than once. I've been thinking about everything. About us. I shouldn't have—" I lifted my hand. "Charles," I said quietly, "I'm not here for memory lane. I read your letter. Let's talk solutions." He exhaled like he'd been holding that breath since 2019. Okay. He reached into a folder. "I got the paperwork right here. If you could just co-sign the new lease, I could stay in the house. I'm trying to get my footing back, Deb. You know that place means everything to me." I watched his hands tremble. The same hands that used to fix everything except us. "You say you need a lease?" I asked, reaching into my purse. Hope flickered across his face. "Yeah, if you could just—" I slid a fresh folder across the table, gold seal, crisp edges. He opened it. "Soul Flame Holdings, residential lease agreement, monthly rent, $1,350 due date, 1st of every month. Landlord Soul Flame Holdings, LLC tenant Charles A. Wallace." He blinked, confusion folding into disbelief. "What is this?" I leaned in, calm and steady. "It's your lease, Charles, but I won't be co-signing." His eyes traveled down the page, landed on the signature at the bottom, then back up at me. You own it?" I nodded once. He leaned back hard, the vinyl squeaking. Why?" I picked up my glass of water, took a slow sip. "I told you, one mistake can burn down a forest, but I didn't burn anything." I paused. "I replanted." He stared, mouth open but empty. Silence sat between us, thick and final. When Peaches dropped the check, I reached for it before he could move, slipped a 20 under the edge. As I stood to leave, I looked at him one last time and said, "I don't need revenge, Charles. I got receipts." Then I walked out, the doorbell jingling behind me, leaving him sitting beside a cold plate of catfish and a bill he couldn't afford. That weekend, Denise and I held our first Soul Flame pop-up downtown, outside the Community Arts Center, the same one that used to host open mic nights I was too tired to attend back when life felt smaller. We set up early. Gold-brushed display shelves, white tent, balloons that shimmered in the Georgia sun, a banner with our logo printed bold, Soul Flame, light that heals. The air smelled like kettle corn and ambition. At 1:34 p.m., a reporter from Channel 13 News-Macon appeared with a mic in her hand and curiosity in her smile. "I've been hearing about y'all everywhere," she said. "Any chance we could do a quick interview?" I looked at Denise. She nodded, tucking a stray curl behind her ear. We filmed the segment right there, customers buzzing around us. The reporter asked how Soul Flame started, what inspired it, what message we wanted to share. I looked straight into the camera, into every woman who'd ever bit her tongue until it bled, and said, "Soul Flame is about reclaiming what was left behind. It's about grace, grit, and growth. For every woman who's ever been told she was too much or not enough, this flame is for you." She smiled, thanked us, packed up her camera crew. By Sunday night, the video had 45,000 views on Facebook. By Monday morning, our online store was wiped clean. Orders from Chicago, Detroit, Jackson, even one from a woman in Brooklyn who bought 5 stillness candles and left a note at checkout. "Your story healed something in me. Thank you." 2 days later, Charles showed up again. Not with a letter this time, with a check. He didn't come to the diner, didn't ask to talk, just walked into the shop, hat low, voice quiet. Denise was at the front counter printing labels. He set the envelope down. "Rent," he said. She looked up, smiled polite and calm, the way I'd taught her to handle power. "Thank you," she said. "See you next month." He nodded, eyes flicking to the shelves lined with candles, each one carrying a name that told our story better than words ever could. Stillness, gaslight, closure. Then he left, shoulders down, pride folded neat like the napkin under his elbow that day at Mabel's. That night, after we locked up, I sat on Marlene's porch again. The sky was the color of copper and forgiveness. Crickets hummed. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked twice, then settled. I lit a candle. Closure. Not because I needed to forget him, but because I'd finally remembered me. The wax pooled slow. The flame leaned, then steadied, same as I had. And in the quiet, I could almost hear my own heartbeat sinking with the soft crackle of the wick. Not anger, not victory, just peace. The kind you can smell before you see it, the kind you have to earn. The following Thanksgiving, the house smelled like sage, sweet potatoes, and quiet. The good kind of quiet. Not that tight, breath-holding silence that comes from things unsaid, but the deep hush that follows healing. The kind where the air itself feels grateful to rest. I'd had the oven going since 7. Music low. Windows fogged. A candle flickering on every counter. Outside, the pecan tree rustled slow, and the neighbor's dog barked at the mail truck like always. The kids were coming around 4. Denise was bringing her new boyfriend, a soft-spoken engineer who always said, "Yes, ma'am," and dried dishes without being asked. Malachi was flying in from Seattle, first time home in over a year, with his fiancée and a new job that finally made him sound proud when he talked about work. And me? I was setting the table in the same house I once walked out of with a shaking hand and a steady heart. Now it was mine again. Deed in the drawer. Equity intact. Peace paid for in full. I stood in the dining room doorway holding a taper candle labeled Legacy. Soft. Cinnamon, clove, a whisper of cedar. The kind of scent that didn't just fill the room. It told a story. A story about survival that didn't smell like smoke. I placed it right in the center of the table, between the cornbread and the cranberry sauce, and exhaled. At 3:47 p.m., the doorbell rang. Not the kids, not the Amazon man, not the neighbor with the loud dogs. Charles. I opened the door slowly. The November air was cool enough to make the doorway fog with our breaths. He stood there holding a small, square box, dressed in slacks and a brown leather jacket that looked like it still carried the weight of old stories. "Hey," he said, voice low, careful. "I heard y'all having dinner. Thought I'd drop this off." I stepped onto the porch, closing the door halfway behind me. "What is it?" He offered the box. "Just a little something. For your shop." I opened it. Inside was a hand-carved wooden sign. The grain still smelled like fresh stain, burned into it, clean and simple. Soul flame, light, love, legacy. For a moment my chest tightened. Not out of longing, just recognition. Some memories don't fade, they soften. He looked down at his shoes. "You ain't gotta say nothing. I know, I just wanted to do one thing right." I nodded slowly. "You did." He turned to leave, then paused halfway down the steps. "Deborah, you really did it. I mean all of it. You made something real." I met his eyes, steady. "No, Charles, I became something real. That's the part you never saw." He nodded, swallowed hard, and walked back to his truck. The gravel crunched beneath his boots until the sound faded into the wind. The kids arrived 20 minutes later, all noise and laughter and hugs that lingered, shoes by the door, coats on the banister, the kind of chaos that fills a house with life. We ate like we hadn't eaten in months, talked over each other, passed dishes like love offerings, laughed until we cried. At one point, Denise lit a candle called Forgiveness during dessert. No one said a word, but everyone felt it. Later that night, after the kitchen was cleaned and the last pie tin covered in foil, I sat out on the porch swing with a blanket and my second slice of pecan pie. The stars hung low, the sky clear and velvet dark. Somewhere down the street, somebody was playing Al Green. The wind carried the scent of pine and smoke and something holy, and in that quiet I could finally hear it. The peace I used to pray for, the kind that doesn't beg or chase, the kind that just is. I thought about everything that had led me here: the pink cup, the letter, the lease, the long nights that smelled like wax and eucalyptus and determination. And I realized something simple, something I wish I'd known years ago. Forgiveness is not letting them back in. It's letting yourself walk free. Charles lost me the day he said, "It was just once," because that one time, that one decision, that one betrayal, it didn't break me, it unlocked me. It birthed the woman who stopped surviving and started rising. Now, when I light my candles, I don't just sell them, I name them after the pieces of me that came back home. Stillness, eucalyptus and regret, closure, legacy. And sometimes, on hard days, I light delusion just to laugh. Because healing, real healing, comes with humor too. So if you're sitting in your own storm, in your own silence, staring at your own just once moment, I hope you remember this. You don't have to burn the bridge, just build something better on the other side. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.